This is the 2022 Hyundai Kona Electric, and this thing is an absolute beauty. It's small, it's nimble, it's available front-wheel drive. Steve here, Cars with Steve, and before we get started, I want to give Ajax Hyundai a huge thank you for giving me access to this vehicle to shoot the video for you today. Check down in the description below for their contact details. Now, this is going to be a pretty in-depth look at everything you need to know about this vehicle. It's available in 2 different trim levels in Canada, 2 down in the States, front-wheel drive only. It's got 415-kilometer range, so we're looking at about 260 miles. I am excited to be sharing the features with you, so let's dive into it, have a little bit of fun, and see what's going on with the 2022 Electric Kona.
We're going to start off taking a peek at the trim level choices as well as the available color options, looking at Canada versus the States. So hopping onto the Hyundai Canada versus the Hyundai USA website, there are a few things to note. So in Canada, the available trim level choices are either the Preferred or the Ultimate, versus in the States, it's either the SEL or the Limited. Now, for all intensive purposes, the SEL in the States and the Preferred in Canada are interchangeable, and it's the same way with the Limited in the US versus the Ultimate in Canada. Virtually the same feature sets, with the exception that inside of the SEL in the States, there are some features that you can't get in an added package that's just unavailable in Canada in our base trim level. So, looking at that, we do have a few options for colors. So in Canada, we've got 10 available colors for our base Preferred, versus in the Ultimate, there are 8 color options. In the US, SEL versus the Limited, you've got the exact same color options, with a little bit of a caveat. So if we look at the SEL white, it's got a black painted roof, versus in the Limited, it's just body color all the way around. In Canada, we do have some of those available options as well. So looking at the Preferred version of the vehicle, we've got our Dive-In Juju with a painted black roof. There's the Misty Jungle, the Pulse Red, which looks really sharp. And then there are 2 options for white, so either with a black roof or without the black roof. 2 different types of gray, so either Galactic or a lighter Cyber Gray. And then there also is the Cyber Gray with a black roof. You've also got the Surfy Blue, and then just a full blacked out vehicle instead. So there are a few options there. Looking at the Canadian version, it's going to be no painted black roof option whatsoever. Same idea with a series of different color choices. Now down in the States, they are the same colors, but as you can see there, some of them are available with the painted roof and some of them are available just body color instead. So it's strictly body color in the higher trim level. So the Limited trim, which is the same way as what we saw in Canada. But looking at the US colors, we've got Ultra Black, Galactic Gray, Lunar White, Blue Wave, Pulse Red, as well as Cactus Fern. So there are similar color choices that are available, but one interesting thing in the States, you can choose between the 2 different available color choices for the inside, either gray or black on either trim. Versus in Canada, we're stuck with that lighter gray on the inside for the Ultimate, and the Preferred, it is going to be that darker cloth interior instead. So those are some of the main differences in the trim levels as well as the color choices. Let's hop outside and take a look at some exterior styling.
Looking at some exterior styling and features. So first thing I'm going to point out, the Kona Electric is strictly available front-wheel drive. That's going to be the same whether you're in Canada or the States, so something to think about. But I mean, you just throw a set of winter tires on there, you're driving in the wintertime, you're going to be set to go. And thinking about the tires themselves, this thing is only available with a 17-inch rubber. And that's going to be the same regardless of which trim level of the vehicle you're looking at on the Kona Electric side of things. But really, really nice look. Now, this is the Ultimate trim level, which means we've got our beautiful LED headlamps there. Now, depending on the trim level you get, that's going to kind of dictate which features you get inside of the vehicle. Differing price points as well, and that's kind of one of the interesting things, is I'm here in Ontario, and because of the price of this vehicle, the base price, even the Ultimate, it technically does classify, and it falls under the category for our federal government rebate programs, which means that you potentially could get $5,000 off the price of the vehicle, and that's just a rebate through the federal government. On top of that, this vehicle is also priced to the point where you're also eligible, if you're a business owner, where you could write off the entire capital cost in the first year of ownership. So definitely something to check with your accountant on if you're considering not even just the Hyundai Kona, but any sort of other electric vehicle. If it meets certain criteria, you might be able to write off the entire cap cost in year 1. So definitely something to think about. But I love the feature set and the styling of this thing. We do have our forward sensing system inside of this vehicle, which I love it. I love the forward sensing system. You're gonna hear me rave about a few of the things that I love, what they've thrown inside of this thing at the price point they have as well. Now, in order to charge the Kona Electric up, it literally is just in the front of the vehicle. So we can see a little charge door there, open it up, and Bob's your uncle. So we've got a few different ways that we can charge this thing up. So we've got 2 different plugs that are there, and it's actually kind of interesting because we've got a level 2 or a level 3 charge, and that's going to kind of dictate how fast the vehicle itself charges up. Now, when we look at the level 2 charging inside of this thing, you're looking at about 9 hours and change in order to fully charge up. When we get into the level 3, depending on what the kilowatt hour rating is for your charger, that's going to dictate how quickly this thing can actually charge, because we look at level 3 and we can max out at 80% in about 47 minutes at 100 kilowatt hour charge. So that is kind of cool, which means that you can charge this thing up fairly quickly, which is definitely a nice thing. Now, this vehicle does include a charge cable directly from the factory when you purchase it, which is definitely a nice touch, and we've got some options for a home charging station as well. All right, next up, taking a peek underneath the hood of the vehicle. So this actually caught me off guard the first time I saw it. Like, I popped the hood of this thing and I was like, wait a minute, I thought this was an electric vehicle. It is, but these guys, like Hyundai, decided to do something very unique from what I've seen in other electric vehicles. They literally made it kind of look like a regular gas engine underneath the hood of this thing. Rather than hiding all the components underneath the vehicle like what we'd see in other manufacturers, everything is laid out nicely for us underneath the hood. And it does look really, really cool. And because there's really only one thing we've got to worry about as an EV driver. I mean, well, technically 2. We've got to worry about the brakes, and we've got to worry about filling up the windshield wiper fluid. That's really it. Now, one thing to note, this thing is powered by a 150 kilowatt hour electric motor. Looks really, really great. We've got a 64 kilowatt hour lithium ion battery underneath the hood here as well, so it is fairly impressive. From a power perspective, this thing is able to push out 201 horsepower and 290 pound-feet of torque. Like, that is very surprising out of such a small vehicle. What they've been able to do with this thing. I am super excited to be able to take this thing out for a test drive, but I really, really love the look and what they've done under it. And it is kind of neat because we look at the charge door itself, we can see all of the necessary wirings and everything like that kind of feeding in towards this electric motor. Like I said, I really love what Hyundai's done with this thing. It looks really, really sharp under here. All right, taking a peek at the key fob of the vehicle. So really, really nice look for the actual fob itself. We've got our Hyundai logo there, and we've also got easy access to emergency access key. So if we need to get inside of the vehicle because the fob has died for whatever reason, or if we need to lock the glove compartment, etc., that's where we're going. Looking at the actual fob itself, we've got our lock button, our unlock button, remote start, as well as our horn or a panic alarm button. Now, in order to be able to remote start the vehicle, all we have to do, literally simple, we're going to just press the lock button once, and we're just going to press and hold this hold button there. As you can see there, vehicle is now powering on. There we go, so as you can see, it's now remote started. In order to cancel the remote start, we just press that button again. So we just press and hold, and the remote start is now canceled. It literally is that simple. All right, now, one thing about getting inside of the trunk of the Kona, it is going to be a manual process regardless of whatever trim level of the vehicle you're looking at. So just make sure the car is unlocked, and in the back there we've got a button just underneath the H, and we're just going to press that button there. Oh, up she goes. Now, we do have the option of removing this privacy shade in the back of the vehicle, pretty straightforward in order to be able to do it. We've literally just got a couple hooks along the top there, so we're just going to kind of reach for this guy there, and we're going to pull both of those ones off. And then there is the ability to just kind of pick this thing up and lift it out. It really is that simple. But let's have a look at the cargo dimensions now. So as you can see, there's plenty of width, depth, and height inside of the vehicle, especially for a vehicle this size. Now, one thing to note about the actual cargo dimensions themselves, there are a few different measurements that are showing up. So we're going just from the inside, from the bottom of the inside here to the top there. So kind of the loading area is what we're going to call it. Now, we do have a few extra inches if we kind of move inside, not a ton more space though, but we've got a couple extra inches of space if we need to store a few things. Now, folding the seats down is also very straightforward, and we are a 60-40 split. So 60 driver, 40 passenger, folding them down, super simple. Just along the very top there, we've got a little latch. We're just gonna pull that and fold it down. Same thing on the other side. As you can see, folded down very, very simply. Let's have a look at the difference there. So a lot more depth when it comes down to folding those seats down. And as I mentioned, it's a 60-40 split, so 60 driver, 40 passenger. So we can easily fold down one side or the other if we need to. Right now, as we move inside, so there's actually nothing along the left-hand, right-hand side. I mean, we've got a speaker and we've got a tiny little light, but no tactile buttons, nothing that we're pressing in the back here. Now, one thing to note about this actual cover, so we do have a couple of hooks there as well. So cargo netting, things like that, we can install that easily if we want to. And we can actually fully remove this tray if we want, but we can also slide it down another little level in order to kind of give us more of a flatter type of a fold there as well. It's interesting what Hyundai has decided to do with this thing, but it is kind of neat that we've got that flexibility. So if you need to get a tiny little bit more space, we can easily do that. Now, removing this thing completely, if we want to, taking a look underneath, we actually don't have a mini spare tire inside of this thing. So it would be nice to see, but it's the same with a lot of other EVs. We're just not typically going to see a spare. So one thing to note, we do have our actual inflator as well as the goop. So if we need to quickly patch ourselves to get ourselves to a dealer, we've got that option. And then we also do have our charge cable. So it looks to be, I'd probably say about 20 feet roughly, and it's got a really nice look to it. Now, the charge cable that does come standard with this thing is 120 volt. So we are looking at a little bit of a longer time in order to charge up, but we do have the option for an at-home charge station as well if we wanted to do something aftermarket. So we do have a few options when it comes down to it, but it's gonna depend on, are you just gonna be parking this thing overnight? You can just kind of top yourself up as you need to. Parking at work, you're gonna go to quick charge stations, things like that. So there is quite a little bit of flexibility there, but it is nice to know that we've got the charge cable included from the factory, and it looks like we've also got a cargo net. So definitely a nice thing. Looking at some standard technology inside the vehicle. So we've got our backup camera, that's going to be there all the time. We've got a reverse sensing system, so we can just kind of make out the reverse sensors there. And on top of that, we've also got our blind spot indicator system. So that lets us know if anybody's entered the blind spot on either side of the vehicle. So definitely a nice touch. Now, we also do have the forward sensing system. So it is a park assist feature there. So we can just kind of make out those forward sensors, but it is nice to know that we have those there as an option. Now, this thing is loaded with quite a lot of other technology as well. So things like a lane keep, follow assist. We've also got pedestrian cross traffic alert and a few other great features. All right, now, taking a peek at second row spacing inside the vehicle. So I'm 6 feet tall. Driver's seat set up for somebody who's 6 feet tall. I've got a decent amount of knee room, I guess I could say. Like, I've got a couple inches of space there, so it is a good thing, and a little bit of foot space. And then up overhead with me sitting fully upright, I've got maybe half an inch of space. So if I had spiky hair, it would definitely be hitting the top here. Now, one thing to note, this thing does have a sunroof in there. It is a nice look. Now, it's not going to really have too much of a difference if we go for the base model of the electric. It's not going to give us too much more of a headspace there for us. So something to think about, but I mean, it is still fairly comfortable back here. So I mean, if I had the driver pull up his seat a tiny little bit more just to kind of be nice, I would have a little bit more space and, you know, head back there. It is still going to be a comfortable ride. We can easily adjust the headrest as well. There aren't too many levels for it. Actually, there's only 2 levels for it, so we are kind of maxing out there, but I mean, the headrest is actually surprisingly comfortable, which is definitely a nice thing. Now, a few other things to point out back here. We do actually have heated second row seats, which is definitely a nice thing. So it is something that, I mean, it's not going to be standard inside of every trim level of the vehicle, but it is nice to know that inside of the ultimate trim level, so the highest package that's available, it is going to be standard there. Now, one thing to note about those heated seats, it's going to be the outboard seats. This middle row is never going to be heated, so something to think about. A couple other things to point out. So we do have our handle there with a little hook. We've got our cabin lighting in the back there that looks like we can control, which is a good thing. We've also got a little pocket in the back of the passenger seat so we can store a few things if we need to. And then there also is cup holders. So we've got 2 cup holders there, which is always a nice touch. Now, one thing that I actually really love the look of, the actual seats themselves. So we do have leather seats inside of this thing, but it does have this like micro blue stitching in it. And I love blue. I love what they've done with this vehicle. Like, this Kona Electric looks really sharp on the inside here. So Hyundai, great job. Now, taking a peek along our driver's side door, we do have intelligent access there. So with the key fob on us, we can press this button in order to be able to either lock or unlock the door. So really nice. Hopping inside, such a nice look. But we've got our usual there. So we've got the option of adjusting our side view mirrors. We've got our unlock lock button, kill off power to those back windows. And then we can also adjust our windows as necessary. Moving down, so we do have a little storage space, a little bottle holder there. It's going to be the same for the driver passenger side. Hopping inside the vehicle. So we've got quite a few buttons there, as you can see. Very first one, left-hand side, that's our dimmer switch for a cluster screen, so we can make the screen brighter or darker if we'd like to. Our reverse sensing system, so that park assist, that reverse, that beeping that we get as we back up, we can toggle that one on or off if we want to. Now this specific one, the Ultimate, does have a heads-up display, so we can pop that heads-up display on or off if we want to. And when it actually physically will lower down, which is definitely a nice thing. And then we've also got our auto mode there, as well as our traction control, so we can turn the traction control on or off if we want to. Now, one other thing to point out, so as you can see there, we do have a manual adjust for the steering wheel itself, so it is nice to know that we've got that flexibility, and it is a telescopic wheel as well. Moving down a tiny little bit, we do have our hood release there, so if we ever need to top up windshield wiper fluid, that's where we're going in order to be able to do it. All right, now hopping inside the vehicle. So it does have a really, really great feel, and it is super comfortable. Like, I'm 6 feet tall, and the way that I would normally have this thing set up exactly like this. So very, very comfortable there. I could technically move this thing forward a little bit more to create some more room for people in the back seat, but here nor there. Now, when I've got it set up for me, 6 feet tall, up overhead, I've still got about, we'll call it 3.5, maybe 4 inches of headspace. So something to think about, but the seat could technically go down, a tiny little bit. So 4.5 inches of headspace roughly up overhead there. And we do have our sunroof. So this thing looks really, really nice. Now, it's not a panoramic roof, but it is nice to know that we've at least got something to kind of open things up a little bit more. So really, really cool. Next up, let's take a peek at the steering wheel of the vehicle. So really, really great look there, nice leather wrapped wheel, and we do have a heated wheel all the way around as well. So definitely a nice thing for the winter time. But let's kind of start off with some of the basics. So we do have a few paddle shifters there along the side. Moving down a little bit, let's start and focus on the left-hand pad there. So we do have our voice command prompt, and our voice command prompt is going to give us the flexibility to be able to change radio stations. We can navigate using our voice, make phone calls, and things like that. So really, really nice to know we've got that flexibility. Now, if we had our phone connected through Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, like on the Apple CarPlay side of things, this would also work as a hot button press in order to activate our Siri Assistant. We've got our basic mode button there as well, and the mode button is actually going to give us a few different options. So if we look along the side there, we can literally set it up in order to be able to do whatever we want this specific button to do. So with the mode button, are we going between our Bluetooth audio, phone projection, AM, FM, Sirius XM, etc. So we've got a little bit of flexibility there. We can either increase or decrease the volume there. We can change between songs or radio stations, moving this up and down. And then we can also seek by pressing and holding. So we press and hold in order to be able to seek. So I'll actually show you what that looks like. So if we go to the radio for a second there, so as you can see there, we're just going to press down. We can kind of move between active presets there, or we can press and hold in order to be able to actually change to a different station. There we go. Quick little audio test there as well. Involuntary audio. Oh. Now, as we start to move down, we can answer or hang up on a phone call. And we've also got another hot button press in order to create our own unique button. So we can do things like have it pull up our voice memo. We can do rerouting, cancel the route, and things like that. So we do have quite a little bit of flexibility there, which is definitely a nice touch. And then looking along the right-hand side, so a series of different buttons there. So the very first one is going to be for our pages. So as you can see there, we press that button and that jumps us between a few different options there. We've got our base button. So the one that's going to go up and down between different screens in each sub-page, we press and hold this button in the middle there. That's essentially our OK button. So we can do things like we can reset our attention level and a few other things as well. Now, moving back to our pages, we've got some basic drive info. We've got our recharge levels, our accumulated info, energy flow, as well as our current speeds. We've got digital speed, but we've also got our digital speed there as well. So it's just kind of a different way to look at it. And we can just simply reset any of these values. Again, the switch that we're using in order to move up and down, we just press the OK button there. So we literally just push the button in order to be able to reset all the accumulated info. This button again, so we press in order to get to our active navigation sources, so it lets us know which direction we should be turning. We've got the heads-up display as well, so we might be able to make it out. We can't make it out there. Not at all. So we've got a heads-up display as well, where we can also see what's going on with the actual directions that we should be taking. So definitely a nice thing. Now we do have, so as you can see there, so we've got the route going there, and we just press OK in order to get to our tire pressure, which we do need to start driving in order to actually see what the tire pressure is going to be. But that's going to be the basics of this, and the attention level is an interesting one, because if we start to veer over out of our lane without signaling, that attention level is going to go up each time. Once it hits that full level, it's going to let us know we should probably take a break. So it is nice to know we've got that as a basic safety feature. We've got our smart cruise system, so that adaptive cruise control system. We're literally going to turn it on as we're driving, and then we can set our speed by pressing up and down. If for whatever reason we have to brake, we can literally press the button there in order to be able to resume as well. So we can literally set increase or decrease 1 kilometer or 1 mile per hour at a time there as well, turn the system on or off. And then this is our distance indicator. So how close or how far are we away from the vehicle that's in front of us? So we've got a little bit of flexibility there. Actually, if I switch you into drive for a second, let's start going. Oh, you actually need to be driving at at a decent speed. So this is definitely not what I'm going to be showing you right now. And then this one is going to be our lane centering system, so our lane follow system. Now that's a really, really cool feature. And the reason why is because if the vehicle senses the actual lane markings, what it's going to do is it's going to actually keep us balanced in our lane. So it's literally going to be following as we go. So it is very smart technology there. Now I do recommend honestly, like, play around with this setting because it is such a great one once you actually understand the dynamics of how the smart cruise control system works. It is a really, really great feature. And that's going to be the basics of the actual buttons there. Now we do have our left turning stick there, so we can rotate along the tip there in order to figure out what's going on with our running lamps. Honestly, I just recommend keeping it on the auto setting. That's going to automatically flip us between our daytime and our nighttime running lamps automatically. We can pull in towards us to flash our high beams as well, and we can also push them in for our auto beam setting. Looking along the right-hand side, we can control the speed of the windshield wipers. We can also turn our rear wiper on by flipping the very tip of the stick there as well. So we've got a few different options there: rear wiper high, low, or off setting. We're going to pull in towards us for the front wiper, and we're going to push away for the rear wiper fluid to go. So very, very straightforward to turn this thing on. All right, next up, taking a peek at the media screen of the vehicle. So really, really great look. And this is the 10.25-inch media screen that is going to be standard inside of the Ultimate version of the vehicle. Now, if you're in the Preferred, so that's going to be the SEL inside of the US, that's going to be an 8-inch media screen instead. But either way, you will have Android Auto and Apple CarPlay capabilities. And typically, we will be met with either this screen or our home screen there. This main screen is where we've got a guest, or we can change individual users. So if you've got multiple people driving the vehicle, you can literally set a profile up for as many people as you'd like to. So definitely a nice thing if you've got multiple people driving this thing. So we can press our little home button there, and we've also got a series of different other buttons there as well. So we can turn our display off completely if we wanted to, button press to bring it back to life again, and we've got a series of different settings. So let's kind of go screen by screen in order to figure out exactly what's going on. So we've got our basic summary screen there. We've got our EV button there. So our EV button, we can see where the next closest charge station is. We've got our current charge status, our DC versus AC charging. We've got a series of different EV settings there as well. So we've got our utility mode, which is going to use the high voltage battery in order to power the devices connected to the vehicle. We've got our winter mode. We've got a basic range warning, so letting us know that, the destination that is going to be a little bit further than what our range is. So we can turn that one on or off if we want, as well as our route. So this is going to be what charging stations are available on the actual route itself, and we can toggle that one on or off if we want to. So it is nice to know that the map is at least smart there to know and let us know when we should be coming up to a charge that might be available. We've got our map there as well, so really, really nice look there. As you can see, we've got quite a few different options that are available. So we've got let's actually bring the menu back up. So we've got our nearby point of interest. We can save different things. We've got our traffic display, and then we can, again, turn the display off if we wanted to. We've got our home button, our compass, navigation. We can increase or decrease this way if we want to. So just go plus and minus. We can do our pinch to zoom as well. And then we can literally just drag and drop if we wanted to go that route. So we do have that flexibility. And as we kind of drag and drop there, we can kind of set it as a waypoint. So we want to go to a specific location. We just kind of set it there. We can save it as a favorite. We can set it as a destination, or we can set it as parking there. So we've got a little bit of flexibility. Actually, one thing while we're on the map itself, now one other thing, we can press this button along the side in order to be able to kind of hide whatever is going on there, and it just stretches the map out, and it looks so much nicer doing it this way. So really, really great look and layout there. Again, pressing the menu is going to bring up that base menu there, and we can also search for addresses. Now, we've got a few different ways that we can actually search for addresses. We can literally type in GPS coordinates. We can start typing in a city. We can add a home or a work address in as well. And one of the nice things about doing that is, let's say if you want to navigate home, you literally do that. So you'd add in your home address there, then you'd press the voice command prompt on the steering wheel and say navigate home, and whatever address you have saved to your home or work it's going to navigate you there. So really, really smart. If we select, this is an address that I was literally just searching for, we've got our guidance, we've got different routes, and we've got our route avoidance options. So route avoidance options, we can avoid freeways, toll roads, things like that. So if you don't want to hit a few things while you're driving, you want to completely avoid, let's say, the 407 or other toll roads, we've got that flexibility to let the vehicle determine what that's going to look like. So we've got a few different things. We can set different waypoints as well, just by kind of dragging the map. So if you have different spots you need to go to, you can add in different waypoints as well, or you can just press start guidance
Will start now.
in order to be able to guide us out to where we need to be. We can pause the route if we want to. And then if we hit the nav button there on the screen, that's going to pull up some additional settings. So there are quite a few different settings that are available here. So firstly, let's actually cancel the route that we just started. So we just hit cancel route. Route's now canceled. Let's go back to the map for a second there. So this is going to be our base map view. This is going to be our nav view. So whatever screen we're on, so if we're on the home button, the home screen there, we could technically hit the map, or we just hit the map button along the very bottom of the screen. We jump back into our nav settings. We've got different places, point of interest icons and categories. So that's going to be things like gas stations, restaurants, things like that. We can look at previous destinations. We've got our address book where we can set in a certain number of favorites. Moving back, we've got different Hyundai dealerships, so we can see kind of who's close by. If we had a route going, we could cancel the route out. So let's actually go back to our map. Let's search, go to this previously done address, start it. I'll show you why. So we go to navigation and we've got our route overview. So we can see exactly what's going on with the route. We go back, we can edit it if we want to. So we can kind of see exactly what's going on there. We can back out and we can look at some different route options. So again, this is kind of going to let us go into this other part of the map screen. So a little bit of flexibility there. And again, that's our route avoidance options and things like that. Pressing back, it's going to resume the previous route in a second. And then we just cancel out in order to cancel the route out that we had set. So it is really that simple. Moving back into our home screen, we've got our navigation menu again, which again we can hit by just pressing that hot key at the very bottom there. Along the top, we've got our phone now. So phone, we've got quite a few different options that are available there. So we've got our settings. So if we hit settings for a second, we can take a look and see what phones we've got connected. So there was a phone that was connected at one point. We can delete that device very simply if we want to. So as you can see, we are now fully deleted from the vehicle. It really is that simple to be able to do it. Moving back, let's actually go through how to set up a phone. So we're going to go to our phone settings there. We've got our hands-free calling or Bluetooth audio. So we want to make sure we keep both of those selected and hit OK.
On from your device in order to search. On your device, select the name that matches vehicle name on the screen.
Okay, so on your phone, what you're going to want to make sure you do is have your Bluetooth turned on, and we're looking for Kona along the bottom, or whatever you have the vehicle named. So we're going to hit that, make sure that the PIN numbers match up, and they do, so we're going to hit pair. Here we go. Do we want to allow contacts and favorites to sync? Yes, we absolutely want to do that. Perfect, and we are now connected. So if we hop into my phone, okay, so it's downloading my contacts now, but we hop in, we've got my dial pad messages, contacts, and a number of other things. So really is that straightforward. In order to be able to connect a phone to the vehicle, we can see what's going on with my current battery status, my signal, and things like that. So really, really nice to know that we've got that option. Now, message access request, do we want to allow access to messages? Yes, no. And that's just going to be a message notification that's going to come up on our phone there. Right now, in order to be able to set up Apple CarPlay inside of this thing, it's very straightforward. So what we're going to do, we're just going to take our USB cable and we're going to plug it into that front USB port there. So we're going to plug in, and nextly, we're just going to take the opposite end of the cable and we're just going to plug ourselves in. Bam! And there we go. So Apple CarPlay, so we're just going to hit next. Do we want to allow CarPlay while the phone is locked? Yep, we want to make sure we do that. Okay, so there we go. So we can literally use Siri in our iPhone settings, so we can press that voice command prompt on our steering wheel to have Siri going. But we hop into Apple CarPlay now and look at this. We've got our Apple Maps, or we've got Apple Maps, we've got Google Maps, and we've got Waze. And we can use it all through this middle screen here, and it's stretched out across the entire screen, which I love the look of this thing. Now, a couple things to note about the actual stretch across the entire screen. It's not going to be that way as a default, and I'll show you what I mean. Because if we go back to, if you ever want to get out of that screen, you just hit the Hyundai button there. And that's just going to take us back to this main screen here. Now, if we go, let's actually disconnect for a second, and I'll show you why. We go into our setup, device connections, Apple CarPlay. Use split screen on CarPlay screen. So if we press that one, watch this now. We're going to plug back in. Perfect. So it kicks us out of that screen. And here we go. So we're going to go. Apple CarPlay is connected. We just have to give it a second. We're going to go back, jump into Apple CarPlay, and we've got our split screen now. So it is nice to know that we can go full screen, we can go split screen, just depending on whatever our preferences are. Honestly, I would probably just keep it full screen all the time because I think that looks really, really sharp. Now, one of the cool things is that we can still be connected through Apple CarPlay, and we can use our radio as well. So let's kind of hop in. There we go. We'll go back into CarPlay. There we go. So as you can see, we've got AM, FM going, etc. while we're connected to CarPlay. So we don't have to worry about going based off of whatever's going on with CarPlay. We can literally just we can have our AM, FM going while still connected to CarPlay for maps if we want to use Waze instead. Now, one of the cool things about the Apple side of things is that inside of our actual phone settings there, if we go into a general settings, we've got CarPlay and we've got Kona. We can customize, and we can literally drag and drop to customize our launcher. So if you have a tendency to maybe listen to audiobooks, or maybe you love your podcasts, we can kind of drag and drop, and it's dynamically going to update the screen for us. If you delete something, because you don't necessarily use it, moves to the bottom of the screen there. And if you delete too many things, reorganize, we can literally just reset in order to bring us back to our factory default screen there instead. Moving back to our home screen, as you can see, everything is back to our default. We press the Hyundai button there again, and that brings us back to this home screen setting. So really that simple to be able to set up CarPlay there. But we jump back into CarPlay there, we can hop back out very simply as well. Now going back into our setup, we go to device connections. Watch this, Apple CarPlay. So we can't technically make any changes here unless we're physically disconnected from the vehicle. So going back into CarPlay now, we can enable it. So we can actually completely disable CarPlay, which means that if the vehicle senses a USB connection, it's not going to enable CarPlay whatsoever. So if you want to be charged up and literally just that, just charging up without using CarPlay, that's exactly how we're going to be able to do it. And it really is that simple connecting an iPhone to this vehicle. Right now, setting up an Android device is literally the exact same process. So what we're going to do first and foremost, we go to our device connections. We've got our Bluetooth connections there. So we've got a few different ways we can kind of get into the actual phone itself. Because if we're on the home page there, we can literally just click on phone. And as you can see there, we are back in my actual phone. So we can jump back into the phone there, and that's going to be the iPhone itself. We can switch phones out there if we want to, if we had multiple phones connected. But if we go back home, we go into our setup, or we press the setup button there, device connections. We're going to go Bluetooth connections. We've got my phone connected, so we're just going to delete that device right now. So device is now disconnected and it's completely deleted from the vehicle. We could have it still connected there in order to be able to add a new device in as well, but we've got our hands-free calling and Bluetooth setting there again.
From your device in order to search. On your device, select the name that matches vehicle name on the screen.
Perfect. So on our phone, what we're going to do is we're just going to scan, and same thing, we're just waiting for Kona to show up there, which it did along the very bottom. So we're just going to click it. Okay, pairing up, we need to make sure that the numbers match up, and they do, so we're going to hit OK. Perfect, we're connected there. And in a few seconds, oh, look at that, we're connected. So we click on the actual phone, we've got hands-free calling, we've got Bluetooth, we can disconnect, etc. Do we want to allow access to my contacts? Yeah, let's hit allow there, and we're connected. So we are now fully connected there to the actual phone itself. So we're just going to, there we go, give it a second there, and we jump back. Now next up, we want to do the same thing for Android Auto. So I'm going to show you the process in order to set Android Auto up as well, because it literally is the exact same thing. But if we go into our phone again, so you can see we've got my call history messages, we've got the dial pad and things like that as well, battery level, as well as the current signal level. Moving back to the home screen again, we can go to our projection manager, and again, we do have to physically be connected. So let's actually go through the process to set up Android Auto. And it literally is the exact same process as the iPhone side of things. So we take our USB cable, we plug it into that front USB port, boom, plugged in, opposite end of the cable, we're just gonna plug ourselves in, bam, and watch this. Okay, Android Auto would like to, so we're just gonna hit next along the very bottom there. Haha, look at this. Look at this. Oh, should take a second. 3, 2, 1, and we are now fully connected there. So as you can see, fully connected, we can press the button along the bottom to go to our main screen. We can pull up our Google Maps. We've got our notification center as well as our Google Assistant. But we've got tons of flexibility there. So very similar to what we just finished seeing on the iPhone side of things. So we can customize some things out if we want to. We've got our games and things like that. So a little bit of flexibility there. Now, very similar to the iPhone side of things, we can also figure out what we want to do from a customization perspective. So on our phone, all we're going to do is search for Android Auto, and it's literally straightforward. So I'm going to show you. So on the phone itself, we just search Android Auto. We've got our basic settings there. So we're just going to click on settings. And as you can see, we've got the currently connected vehicle, we can see previously connected cars, or we can customize the launcher. So same thing, so if you maybe listen to your podcast a little bit more, we can literally just press in order to drag and drop that anywhere that we wanted to. So we're just gonna press, drag it, drop it, boom, and there we go. So as you can see there, but in order to be able to have the changes saved, we actually have to get out of Android Auto and hop back in for that to change. So it's not the same dynamic press as what would happen on the Apple CarPlay side of things, but we still can customize the launcher if we wanted to. Moving down a bit more, we've got our Google detection, we've got our day-nighttime mode, our Google Assistant, and a few other things that we can do directly through Android Auto as well. So pretty neat. And then very similar to what we saw on the iPhone side of things. So in order to remove the phone from the vehicle, all we're going to do is go into our Hyundai for a second there. Perfect. And we've got our phone, we've got Android Auto, or we can jump into our setup, device connections, and remember, we've got to be disconnected now. Jump into Android Auto to completely disable it if we want to, or we jump into our Bluetooth, go to our connections. We've got my phone that's connected, so we can delete the device. Boom, delete, yes. And 3, 2, 1, the phone is deleted. So it literally is that simple, connecting a phone to the vehicle and setting up Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. All right, now moving back. So we've got a few other things for our connections, so we can auto connect for different priorities. So if we've got multiple phones connected, we can select which one we want to connect first. Our Bluetooth voice prompts, we can play the prompts if we want to. Moving back, we've got our Bluetooth system info, so we've got our vehicle name, which we can set that up in order to change the name out to whatever we want it to be. And we can also set up a unique passkey if we wanted to do that as well. Moving backwards, so we've got our phone projection, which we've covered off. We've got our voice memo as well, which is kind of neat. So we can literally record voice memos saying like, hello, whatever we want to do based right on our phone, on our vehicle, which is kind of neat. We've got our climate control settings there as well. So we do have some climate settings down a little bit lower, but we've got some other basics here, which is kind of a neat thing. So we've got our current fan speed going, we've got the current temperature and our outside temp as well. And we can literally see what settings are currently going right now. We've got our activate washer. So whenever we go to hit the windshield wiper fluid, is it automatically going to have that going? Do we want to have it auto dehumidify and defog the vehicle as well? Our valet mode. So we do need to have Blue Link set up in order to be able to do that, but the valet mode essentially is going to lock the screen out. So valet driver wouldn't be able to look through our settings and, saved addresses, things like that. We've got our HD radio, we've got our base radio, which this is so cool. Such a nice look to it. So we've got our 93.5 or whatever station you want to go to. So let's kind of go to a local station. We're gonna ain't got no crystal ball. I'm at $1 million, but such a great song, sublime, so great. So as you can see there, I love this look. Like, it's such a nice classic look. Along the left-hand side, we can change between AM, FM, Sirius XM, and we've also got our seeking there. So we can seek this way, we can seek there, we can use the voice command prompt on the steering wheel in order to be able to change stations if we wanted to go that route as well. Now, having said that, so we're on at a different station, so we can just star it there in order to save it as a preset. But as you can see there, we can have a mix between AM, FM, Sirius XM, etc., all saved there, which is definitely a nice touch. And same thing, so if we look along the side there, we can button press that in order to be able to give ourselves a split screen as well. Moving back, we've got our base setup, so we can get to the setup there, or we can press the setup button along the very bottom right. And that gives us quite a few more options. So we've got our base vehicle settings, so we've got our driver assistance, so our base reaction time there, driving convenience settings. So we've got our highway drive assist as well as our speed change. So it is kind of neat that there are so many things that are available inside of this vehicle. And I mean, we can toggle anything on and off that we want to. So it is pretty neat that we've got that flexibility. Next up, we've got our warning timer. So we can do either standard or a later timer. And we've also got the volume of the notifications that we get. Our driver attention warning. Do we want to give it a warning? So as we start to veer over too many times, it's going to let us know and give us a warning. We can disable that one if we want to. Down, we've got our forward safety assist. So active assist means that if the vehicle senses a potential collision, it's actively going to brake for us, or we can just give it a warning, or we can have nothing happen. Our lane safety system as well. So we've got the assist. So if we start to veer over into a lane, it's literally going to bump us back into our lane. Almost, I want you to think of bowling lanes, like those old school bowling lanes where if you didn't want to get a gutter ball, you'd have those assist lanes come up. Think of this the same way. If the vehicle figures out what's going on with the lane markings, it can literally keep us bounced in our lane as we go. Now, it's different from the actual lane keeping system, but this is a basic lane safety system. We've got our blind spot assist, so that lets us know if anybody's, it's entered the blind spot on either side of the vehicle, but it can also give us a safe exit, letting us know that there's a potential collision when we go to open up the door, which is kind of nice. And then we've got our warning, or we can turn that setting off as well. And then lastly is going to be our park safety. So rear cross traffic alert, as we go to back up, the vehicle is going to let us know if there's a potential collision. So we can disable that one if we want to, but it is a very nice setting if you tend to pull your vehicle in and you tend to back out of spots instead. All right. Next up, we've got drive mode. So we've got a series of different modes there. So we've got our eco mode, which lets us control a few different things. We go to our normal mode versus sport mode. All right, and we've got different drive modes there as well. So detailed versus simple alert. So as you can see there, so as we change the drive mode, this is essentially going to be the alert. So whether or not that shows up or not, it's going to be a matter of preference. All right, and moving back, we've got our eco vehicle, so smart regeneration. So what that means is it's essentially going to use regenerative braking as well. So yes, this is an electric. We use a cable in order to charge it up. But with regenerative braking, what's going to happen is as you go to brake the vehicle, it's going to give you a little bit of a charge inside of the actual battery itself. Heads-up display, so we've got a few different options there. So we can actually set the height as well, which is kind of a neat thing. So if you're a little bit taller, you can kind of adjust it as necessary. And you can also give it a little bit of a rotation as well. So it's going to depend on literally you and how tall you are so that you can more easily see what's going on. Now, me personally, I would probably 6 feet tall, have it more or less at this lower setting. And the big reason why it's all based off of where the heads-up display is going to be positioned. And then you can also adjust the brightness of the heads-up display. And you can figure out what's showing. So we've got our turn-by-turn directions, traffic signs, we've got our convenience settings, and then we can also show our radio. So if we've got a radio station going, Sirius XM, etc. We've got our cluster screen there, so we can literally select different themes. So as you can see, there's a series of different themes. We can link it to the drive mode, or we can have different ones set up. We've got our service interval, so how often do we have to service the vehicle? We can reset if we need to. And then we've got a content selection as well. So what's showing up in that cluster? So we've got our wiper display, traffic signs, icy road. Ooh, traffic signs is always a nice one. All right. And we've got our basic welcome sound. So as we get into the vehicle. So we've got a few other things. So our recirculate air. We've got our auto ventilation, so we can get the vehicle to dehumidify and then defog or defrost itself as well. We've got some basic for our lights. So we've got our headlight delay or our high beam assist. The high beam assist is an interesting one because when we've got our high beams on, what's going to happen is if it recognizes an oncoming vehicle, it's automatically going to dim the high beams for us automatically. So definitely a really cool thing. We've got our auto lock setting as well. So the auto lock setting, we go to shift into park, it's going to unlock the doors, etc. So same thing, so we lock, so enable, so shift to park. So you shift to park, doors unlock. Auto lock, shift out of park, the vehicle is going to lock. So we've got a few different options there, and then we can press unlock as well there. And we've got our convenience, so rear occupant alert. So when we go to turn the vehicle off, we've got an occupant alert that's actually going to come up inside of the actual cluster screen there. So inside of the steering wheel cluster, it's going to show up there. And we've got that welcome sound that just came on there as well. All right, and where are we? So in setup and vehicle, I think that was actually it for the vehicle settings. Down, convenience, yep, and then our auto rear wiper. So what that's going to do is if you've got your front wipers going and you go to flip the vehicle into reverse, your rear wipers are going to come on automatically as well. That's going to be the basics of the vehicle settings. Navigation, we've got quite a few different options there. So we've got our map sizes, size for the font. We've got our map color as well. Our different guidance. Oh, actually, was that it? No, that wasn't even it. All right, so we've got our information. So we've got our route guidelines. So we can actually show what the actual route guide is going to take us. We've got our vehicle symbol, so we can customize the way that this thing looks. We can show our vehicle speed. We can show the speed limits on the road as well. Looking at our guidance, so as you can see there, it's how close or how far are we away from the next turn. So we can kind of set that up if we'd like to. We've got our voice guidance, so do we want to have it saying turn in 200 meters, yes or no? We can mute it out when we're near the destination as well. Border crossing, so as we're coming closer to a border crossing, do we want it to let us know? We've got our camera distant alert and a few others. So we've got our previous destination, our user data, and then we've got some basics for the GPS signal there as well. Moving back, we've got some basic sound settings. I say basic, but it's quite advanced. So we can literally figure out what's going on with the actual sound itself. So there's positioning. So if you're by yourself, you kind of have it more or less just on you. So focus on the driver, and we can always reset it there as well. We've got our sound tuning, so treble, mid-range, bass. We've got our guidance as well, so our different sound settings. So again, each sound setting is going to do something different. Like we've got our parking safety priorities. So when we go to park the vehicle, so our park assist, literally all the other volumes are going to lower off so we can focus on that. Same thing with the navigation guidance, etc. Some basic system volumes. This is all in the different volumes, so we can literally set up how loud or how quiet each individual sound is. Our connected devices, what's going to happen with Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, etc. Startup volume limit. So if we have it maxed out and we turn the car off, we go to turn it back on again, it's not going to be blasted again as well for us. So it is nice to know we've got that flexibility. We've got some different sound settings as well. So different noise reduction settings. Oh, one other thing. Sound. The beep that we're getting there. If that drives you nuts, you can turn it on or off along the top left-hand side there. Moving back, we've got our unique user profiles. That's where we can set up a couple of unique profiles there. Voice recognition, we've got a few advanced settings. So we've got our beginner, normal, and expert. I honestly recommend just going for the expert mode. And the reason why, we won't get as many notifications. So if we go to change radio stations, things like that, it'll just do it without giving us confirmation that it's happening. Back a bit more, we've got some different layouts there as well. So we go into our screen theme layout. So we've got our analog clock, digital clock, or none. And that's going to be when the actual screen is off. So if we go to the top there and, we got to go home. Home, and we're going to turn the display off. We've got a clock there now. So we can literally set up whatever we'd like to and literally however we want it to look. So I should say however, well, we've got a little bit of flexibility there. So we can adjust kind of manually there as well. We've got our cluster screen brightness. We've got a blue light filter on there as well. And then we've got our rear camera. And we've got a button there. All right, so buttons. So again, we've got 3 different buttons that are unique. We've got 1 button there, and then we've got 2 on the steering wheel. And each button can do something different. So you can set it up to almost do more or less what you want it to do, which is kind of nice. Moving back, we've got our blue link. So that's going to give us, that's literally an app that we're going to download on our phone as well. It's going to give us some flexibility. So things like remote starting directly through our cell phone. But we do need to have the vehicle activated in order for that to work. So we've got our feature enrollment. But this thing does have a built-in modem. So we can also use it as a wireless hotspot for a number of devices. And then we've got a series of general settings. Helps if we push the button. There you go. So we can see the models, system info, your data, date and time, and then we've also got our languages. So English, Spanish, French, and Korean. And that's going to be the basics of the actual setup there. Moving back home, one more screen. We've got a few other things. So we've got our media. So we can get to the media there. We can get to the media along the bottom, but we can change between AM, FM, Sirius XM. Sounds of Nature I'll show you in just a second, but we can also go between Android Auto, Apple CarPlay. We've got our Bluetooth audio as well as our USB music. And closing that out, we've got our Sounds of Nature now. Now listen to this. It might be a little challenging, so listen to this one. Or how about this one? So it's literally, fireplace. Yes, let's drive around with the fireplace going. Ah, ha, ha. So it is kind of nice that we've got these ambient noises. So if you have a tendency to maybe these things calm you down, you can just have some ambient noises going instead of the radio, which is kind of a nice thing. We've got our blue link there. We've got our notification menu as well as our user manual. So it's just a QR code that we would scan in order to directly launch us into the actual vehicle into the actual vehicle manual. And it's pretty straightforward. Like literally all you're going to do, just pull up your camera. You're just going to scan. We're going to open up. Oh, does not recognize my fingerprint. Here we go. Let's enter in my password there. And as you can see there, launching the manual up. So we've got our video manual. We've got different system overviews. Blue Link, it literally explains a few other things. So if the big one there is if you've got some sort of a warning message on your screen, you're not really sure what's going on, we can just do a hot button press in order to be able to launch the menu. And we can see exactly what's going on with those different screens there as well. So it is really nice to know that we've got that flexibility. As we see there, go back to the home screen, and that literally is going to be this media screen in a nutshell. And we've got a series of different button presses to get to some things. So we've got our basic volume rocker there. We've got our tuning rocker along the right-hand side. We've got our navigation there. So we've got basic navigation settings. We've got another kind of a hot button where we can create it to do more or less whatever we want it to do as well. Change between songs. We've got our media, our radio, basic setup, and things like that. We've also got a series of different climate control settings. We've got single zone climate control inside of this thing, which here or there would be nice to have seen dual climate control, but it is nice to know that we still do have a great climate control setting set up here. This is actually kind of neat. It looks really nice. It's got like a gunmetal gray look all the way down to it, and it kind of makes it pop a little bit. We also do have a little cover there, and that's going to reveal a wireless charging pad, and we've also got a USB port there as well. Now, one cool thing about the wireless charging pad, there is a little light along the side as well, letting us know when it actually is charging a phone up. Clicking down, we've got a really unique setup for our actual, I guess you can call it our shifter. It's kind of neat. So we've got little tactile buttons there. So we've got our drive, reverse, and then our park and our neutral as well. Moving down, we've got our electronic parking brake. We're gonna pull up in order to turn the brake on. Yes, and then we're gonna brake and we're gonna push down in order to turn the parking brake off. So very straightforward there. I still can't get over the way this looks. Like, it's so sharp, I love it. We've got a few bottle holders there. And then we've also got not only heated, but ventilated seats inside of the Ultimate version of the vehicle. So really, really nice to know that, I mean, on days like this, when it is a tiny little bit toasty outside, our butts are at least gonna be a little bit cool. So that's a nice thing. And that's gonna be for the driver and for the passenger in the front, in the first row. When we're in the Ultimate, the second row, we do have the outboard seats that will be heated. We've got a series of different drive modes as well, which that actually looks really, really cool. Great job. So, but we've got our eco mode, normal, and a sport mode, and it completely changes the dynamic of the gauges, and it actually has something going on the media screen itself as you make the change. That is really, really nice looking. Great job. That's cool. That just aesthetically looks really nice. Now we do also have a button for our heated steering wheel as well, and it's heated wrapped around, which is nice, and it is a leather wrapped steering wheel, and it feels oh so nice. All right, now we also do have, so we've got our buttons for our auto hold. So the auto hold setting is an interesting one, because what that's going to do is if you come to a complete stop with the auto hold setting on, you can literally take your foot off the brake and it's going to hold the car in place. So if you're going to be going on, you know, you're in stop and go traffic, that's the big one. You can literally come to a stop, stretch your leg out, and then Bob's your uncle. Moving down a little bit more, we do have a little storage tray, and then we've got our armrest there, and it's got literally just a ton of storage space. So we don't have any sort of extra USB ports and things like that, but it is nice to know we've at least got our wireless charge pad as well as a USB port in the middle there as well. So definitely a good thing. Now, as we start to move up overhead, we do have an auto-dimming rear view mirror. Really, really nice look there. We've got a tow call, we've got our GPS coordinates, our SOS call, and then we've got 3 individual settings for our home link. So that's essentially going to be the linking system in order to, if you've got a garage door opener at home. So you can program your garage door opener code easily, just on the very top there. So definitely a nice touch. Up overhead a little bit more, we've got a sunglasses holder there. Kind of a nice slow drop down. It kind of looks pretty nice. Up overhead a little bit more, we've got our sunroof control. Oh, let there be light. Oh, it's so bright. Oh, so bright. All right. Up overhead a tiny bit more, we've got some basics for our cabin control lighting as well. Now looking, we do have our visor, business card holder. We've got a light that we can control it. That's cool. So it doesn't come on automatically. We can kind of turn it on or off to our liking. We've got a vanity mirror there as well. And we can also extend this thing out a tiny little bit to block some sun if we need to. And we've also got a pillar assist handle here. So, all right, now time for the fun part. Going to be taking this thing out for a little bit of a spin to see how it handles. Now, couple things first and foremost. I am going to turn on the ventilated seats because that is an absolute necessity right now. But I'm also going to put this thing into sport mode and see what kind of a sporty performance I get when I'm in that mode. Let's go for it. Now, let's see what it's got. Really? Really? Okay, that was surprisingly powerful. Like, surprisingly powerful. Wow. Huh. Oy, the sport mode can be dangerous. I'm really curious if that's just sport mode or if that is just like every driving mode and this thing just naturally wants to just pick up and go. Oh, that was really nice. Whew. I'm not gonna I was not expecting that kind of pick up and go in this thing. Wow. Oh, and oh my God. The tires can't keep up with it. The tires can't keep up with the power. Oh, that's amazing. It's an interesting problem to have. Like, literally, like, you can hear the tires. I'm like barely giving it gas and the tires want to go in sport mode. Oh my gosh. Okay, I'm going to change it out to eco mode or normal mode instead and see if it's got that same feel. So 3, 2, and... Oh, okay. All right, so it definitely complete night and day feel difference between sport mode versus the normal mode. Like sport mode, it felt like the wheel was trying to like grip. So if you're going to be driving around in sport mode in this thing, you are probably probably gonna need to do a few things. Like specifically, you're gonna have to make sure that if you're driving in sport mode, you might want to look at a different set of sportier tires. So, oh, yeah, slowing it down a little bit. Same thing, gonna give it a little bit of gas. Oh, that's so good. That's so good. I am actually very surprised. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, that is very interesting. Okay, so that's the charge percentage. Oh, so the paddle shifters are, it's a percentage of what's, oh, that is so cool. It kind of gives you the balance between the charge versus the power. So what do you want more? Do you want more charge as you go? Do you want more power as you go? Vehicle literally lets you determine what you want to do. And it sounds so cool too. Like it's got like a little like, it's like a futuristic kind of propulsion sound that it's giving off as I go. That is so neat. I still can't get over the use of this paddle shifter and how it lets you flip between. That is so cool. Like it's like it really kicks the regenerative braking into high gear when you've got it set like that. So it kind of, you can see the charge versus the power gauge going. Oh, it is so neat. So neat. Oh, that is a huge difference. Oh, wow. That's like a one pedal driving in some other EVs. Oh, that is really neat. Okay, that is impressive. Yeah, when you're in the, oh, that is so cool. Yeah, so which mode? So the paddle shifters are, do you want to have it more so that it's going to give you more power? Or do you want to have it more so that it's going to give you a little bit of like a chargier drive as you go? And you can feel it in the accelerator. Like when you've got it on the highest charge level that's available, it almost feels like the car is trying to slow itself down. And that's all part of the regenerative braking system versus when you've got it on the other setting. So when you've got it where the battery isn't as big of a thing, you're just going to be focusing more so on the power. And that, oh, that is such a cool feature. Such a cool feature. And even looking, so I started off this drive at 415 kilometers available drive. I'm now at 419 because of that little regenerative braking thing we just did there. So that is so cool. Such a neat thing. That is surprising. What? Kona, come on. Wow. Yeah, I'm going to turn the adaptive cruise system, the smart cruise system on as well. So I've got it set to highway speed, and I am definitely not going highway speed right now. And the reason why, the car in front of me is driving a little bit slower. So, I mean, you can tell, like, the car, I've got it, okay, there we go. So he picked up speed again, my car picked back up speed again. It's got the lane keeping system there as well. So hypothetically, like, I mean, look, ma, no hands. Like this, it literally is. It's turning for me as I go. Come on. Come on. Oh, that is so cool. That is so cool. I love it. I love it. It's funny, even though I've got all of these sensors, I still usually always default to checking over my shoulder just to make sure I'm okay. Boom. And there it is. Well, folks, that was a look at the 2022 Hyundai Kona Electric. What did you think? I love this thing. The feature sets, what it offers, all around is a really, really great vehicle at a competitive price point. But if you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up and share it with your social networks. If you have any questions, comments, drop it into the comment section below and let me know. And until I see you next time, take care. Now, as we move to the back, so there's nothing along the left of the raft. Raggy.